Hello, my friends. We have arrived at the portion of the Bhagavatam where Vidura's conversation with Maitreya is going to begin. This is a super important conversation. If you know the nature of the Vedas mostly are recordings of conversations between great people. Most of the Upanishads are just exactly that. And so this particular part of the Bhagavatam is the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. So what happened is Vidura wandered along the Saraswati River to the Yamuna River, found Uddhava, learned from Uddhava that Krishna was no longer around on the earth, and Krishna had enlightened Uddhava prior to departure. Vidura wanted that information from Uddhava. Uddhava said, "Go learn it from Maitreya." He was also there. So now Vidura is going to find Maitreya. Waylon, Hetal, Kitty, Holly, Melissa, good work. She found out the name of the Master of Unity is Yogeshwar. All right, now, Vidura found Maitreya seated at the gateway of Heaven's River. You know what the gateway to Heaven's River is Haridwar. Hardwar, the modern pronunciation, Hardwar. Haridwar means Hari's gate. It's the beginning of the Ganges. Approaching this, so that's where he found Maitreya. So all these rivers are very important in Vedic culture. They're all involved in Vidura's story, aren't they? It starts, he goes to the Saraswati River, which is where Prabhas is, where Krishna left the world. Then he meets Uddhava at Yamuna, and then he meets Maitreya at Ganges, Ganga. Anil, if you listen carefully, then that's how you do it. Listen to the discussion of him. Approaching the sage, Vidura became confident that he was perfectly qualified with transcendental character and fathomless awareness. So Vidura is a little bit suspicious. Why did Uddhava turn me away and tell me to go to Maitreya? Who's this Maitreya character? I think he's a Gyani. Not sure if he's a Bhakta. I'm not sure if he's really into bhakti and spiritual emotion. I think he's more into just detachment from things or just knowledge, more of a scientist type. But as he approaches Maitreya, his doubts get relieved. Yes. Hi, Mary and Miss Vinay. So he gets a little bit of confidence seeing Maitreya, so he goes up to him and asks him a question. And he says, "Blessed sage, all auspicious people like you remain in this world only out of compassion for the suffering masses. So please destroy my confusions by answering my questions. I'm one of those guys that's confused and suffering from my confusion, and the whole reason why you're here is to help people like me. So let's do it. Help me answer my questions." So now Vidura is going to present some questions. Look at this question. What would you ask if you met somebody that you knew basically knows everything? What would you ask him? That's what's going on for Vidura right now. He met somebody who is pretty confident, basically knows everything. He was there while Krishna was explaining everything to Uddhava. So this guy probably knows practically everything. What would you ask such a person? Vidura, this is Vidura's first question. The whole world searches for happiness. Now, that is an interesting topic. That is the real topic. It's not about what you know, what you don't know, what you understand, what you don't understand, what you can do, what you can't do, how long you can live, how short you can live, how you can change your karma, how you can't change your karma. It's about whether or not you're happy. That's what it all boils down to. So Vidura's most pressing question is happiness. What is it? How do we get it? So he says the whole world searches for happiness, but we never find it. We only find hardship, but we can't give up searching for happiness. what's the cure for this situation? It's so interesting. The fact that we seek for something indicates that we need that thing, or that thing is a part of our, it's supposed to be a part of our intrinsic experience. The fact that we can't give up seeking happiness shows that it is a part of reality. Like, happiness is what should be going on. We're looking for the right situation that feels right. But we keep screwing it up, but we can't give up on it. So how do you fix this situation where we keep looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for happiness in all the wrong places? Please destroy. Oh, we suffer. Now, Vidura is also going to disclose to Maitreya where he's at, which is extremely important, because the teacher needs to know if you're in first grade, second grade, third grade, 10th grade, right? The teacher wants to know if you want to learn art or science. The teacher needs to know who the student is, because the teacher has to tailor the content to be appropriate, to be something that the student can digest and appreciate. So when you pose a question to somebody, you also should reveal where you're at, like what you think about the answer or the subject. So Vidura offers some extra information here after the question to inform Maitreya where he's at, what level he's at. What level is he considering this question at? So he says, we suffer because we doom ourselves to irrelevant pursuits by not looking to the all-attractive Krishna. So the reason why we're suffering is because we're looking for our happiness in irrelevant things, because we don't know the most relevant entity, Bhagavan, the central entity of existence. So please show the auspicious path. So Vidura basically knows the answer. He basically knows why we are looking for happiness, but we don't find it because we're not including Bhagavan in the formula. And it's important to include Bhagavan in the formula because Bhagavan is the manifester of reality, so he's got to be central to reality. So he knows the answer. So he's not really just looking for an answer, but he's looking for a solution or a remedy, as we say. So he says, please show the auspicious path that will help us look towards the all-attractive, who resides in our heart and who awards the devoted soul with true knowledge, like that given in the most ancient times. Vidura continued to ask about the all-attractive. Please describe. So his opening question is, how come we can't find happiness, even though we need it? Then he says, I know the answer is because we don't have Bhagavan, the supreme enjoyer, in our life. And therefore, we're not around a supremely joyful person and we don't feel the happiness that we want. So please, my real question then is, how do we focus on Bhagavan? Which was, Anila, this was basically your question. How do we get Bhagavan in our life? And so then his third question is, tell me all about different aspects of Bhagavan. I have specific questions. So here they go. Please describe Krishna's expansion, Narayana, the original womb of the entire world. How does he descend into this world as the three self-sufficient lords? You should know by following the streams that we've done so far. You should know what he's talking about here. Three self-sufficient lords. Any idea? Remember we talked about three Vishnus? Mahavishnu, the Vishnu who is the origin, who rests in the ocean of causality and produces the potential of the universes. Then there's the Vishnu who is in each one of those potential universes as the Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who is like the fetus within the egg of the universe. And then there's the Vishnu which is within every atom of that egg. So those are the three, what does he call them? Three self-sufficient lords that manifest from Narayan, who manifest from Krishna. So Vidura is saying, tell me all about this. how and why is Krishna become Narayan, and how and why does Narayan become these three Vishnus? How does the first of these lords manifest and maintain the cosmos without personal motive? How does the second effortlessly and mysteriously enter his own empty cosmos and lie down within it? How does the third mystically exist as the essence and master of all things? Another question. Narayan also descends into the world to display his playful pastimes and perform deeds that relieve the learned, the cows, and the gods. Please describe them. And then he says, no matter how much we hear about the nectarian activities of the original celebrity, our hearts remain thirsty to hear more. Duh. You might think this is weird. How can people want to hear so much about Vishnu, Krishna, Narayan? Well, how much do you want to hear about, I don't know, who's the modern celebrity? For some reason, celebrities, modern celebrities. It's constantly, people. That's the nature of consciousness. Is it's fascinated by celebrity. Something celebratable is a celebrity. The original celebrity is Bhagavan. So what he's also telling Maitreya is now, what he's saying between the lines is, what he's basically saying is, between the lines, Vidura is saying, I know that by now you can tell that I know a bit of what I'm talking about, what I'm asking about. So I probably basically know the basic answers to these questions that I'm asking you. But two things for you to read between the lines, Maitreya. I want some specific details that I don't know already. And two, I just want to hear the same thing over and over again because it's so interesting. I don't get tired of hearing about it. I want to hear it from different people who have slightly different comprehensions of it. Okay, Vidura continues. Through Brahma, the master of the universe, he divides reality into tangible and intangible, inhabited and uninhabited, common and uncommon regions, each with their own rulers and protectors. Please explain this. This is very interesting, isn't it? So Brahma is the agent through which Vishnu accomplishes this important part of evolution, which is to separate things and make them usable in discrete ways. So he separates tangible from intangible, inhabited from uninhabited, common and uncommon. Aryan, nice to see you. Nice to see you indirectly. Please explain, how do all these different kinds of living beings appear and survive in the world? So I don't know if you picked up on this, but remember when we talked about how a Purana has 10 subjects? Vidura is basically asking about these subjects in order. He's basically saying, where do things come from? How does everything come out into existence? And how does it get assembled and divided into various structures? And how do living entities exist in there? How are all the individual names, shapes, and functions of these living beings created? Now, Maitreya now gives Vidura a look. The look is, don't you know all this? Is how can you ask these kind of specific questions if you don't already know the answers? And I know you're Vidura. Your father is Vyasadeva. So you're no intellectual shrimp. You're an intellectual giant. Your father Vyas already answered all your questions. He edited the Vedas and compiled the Vedanta Sutra. So why you gotta ask me? So Vidura says, yeah. I have heard Vyasa's answers to these questions. But how can I be satisfied with them? Vidura himself is unsatisfied with Vyasa's explanations of these questions as he gave in the Vedanta Sutra. Remember, you're in the Bhagavatam, so at this point in the storyline, the Bhagavatam hasn't been created, and Vyasa himself felt the same way about his Vedanta Sutra, That he was a bit dissatisfied with the way that he answered the questions there. So he continued to work on the Mahabharata and the Bhagavatam. So he says, yeah, I've heard Vyasa's answers, but I'm not quite satisfied. Is there even a fraction of pleasure in explanations that are devoid of the nectar of discussing Krishna? So look, I don't know what's up with Vyasa, but in his Vedanta Sutra, he answered all these questions, and he didn't even mention Bhagavan like at all. So he just like dissected these questions and answered them in their own context off on their own without reference to Bhagavan. How am I supposed to be satisfied with that? That's the whole point of how do we find happiness? That's my real question. Do we find happiness by finding the supreme enjoyer at the heart of everything? Well, Vyasa left the supreme enjoyer out of everything, just explained everything like a scientist would. So Maitreya is a little bit surprised because Vyasa, by this point, apparently has composed the second work, which at the time was called Bharata. Later, the Bharata is expanded upon and becomes Mahabharata, a bigger Bharata. But Vyasa's composition was called Bharata. And in Bharata, Krishna is basically the central character. So Vidura replies to that by saying, yes, your dark-skinned friend Vyasa is describing the qualities of all attractive Krishna in his Bharata. Why he mentions dark skin? Because Krishna is dark. So he's saying, I'm not criticizing Vyasa. Vyasa is like Krishna. They're both awesome. And yes, he's got this Bharata. He wrote this Bharata. And yes, it describes Krishna. But it uses stories of worldly things to attract the minds of common people. To hear from and about Hari. That's what the Mahabharata, that was Vyasa's strategy in writing Mahabharata. He's thinking, I just wrote this Vedanta Sutra, which is just for nuclear physicists of philosophy. Let me try to write a book that expresses the same content as the Vedanta Sutra to regular people. Well, how am I going to get regular people to even read it? Well, it better be a drama. It better be a soap opera. So he thinks, well, great. There's all these political tales throughout the history of this country, India. Let's write about those, and I'll pick the figures in there who have great knowledge and whose deeds exemplify great principles, and tell those stories. And so that was his thesis behind doing the Mahabharata or the Bharata. But for somebody like Vidura, he doesn't need some candy coating to be attracted to the topics. He wants the hardcore stuff. So the Bharata is not entirely satisfying to somebody like Vidura. We got a question from Anil. In a previous stream, you talked about the idea of how we could attract the glance of Bhagavan to help us make the right questions. But how exactly can we do this, and how do we know that we are succeeding? It's just so simple. When you pay attention to somebody, they pay attention to you. That's just the way that people work. And when you love somebody, they start to love you. If you actually love a person, they won't be able to not love you back. Same thing, like whatever, if you actually hate a person. People, it's just the way, it's just as simple as magnetism or gravity. It's an emotional rule. It's an emotional law. Ye yatha mam prapadente tam tataiva prajam. It just works like that. The way that you approach one person is the way that person responds. So if you want to know about Tattvamasi, Bhagavan is a person just like you. So if you want to know about how you attract Bhagavan, you get attracted to Bhagavan. That's all. You listen to information about it. So he says, yeah, your dark-skinned friend Vyasa is describing the qualities of the all-attractive Krishna in his Bharata, using stories of worldly pleasures to attract the minds of common people to hear from and about Hari. But we're thirsty for more. Who could ever cease to be thirsty for hearing about Krishna, whose sacred feet are adored by the gods? When a sound describing Krishna enters the ears, It severs affections for the homely catalysts of material existence. Whoa. It severs affection for the homely. It's a house. It's a home breaker. It's a thing that will. It's a drug. It's an addictive thing. So it will make you lose the passion that you have for pursuing other things. If your ears aren't full of gunk and wax and can actually hear the sound properly. More so that's a metaphorical statement. More so than the ears is the gunk and wax in the heart, known as anartha. Thus, if we nourish our interest in hearing about Hari, we will soon lose interest in everything else. Immersion in the pleasure of always remembering Hari will vanquish our sadness. This is answering your question too, isn't it? Oh, how I lament and lament the lamentable ignorance of those whose wicked fate makes them averse to discussing Hari. This is Vidura's statement. What's really the most lamentable thing? The most lamentable thing, more lamentable than any other lamentable stuff. How I lament and lament the lamentable ignorance of those whose wicked fate makes them averse to discussing Hari. Averse to discussing Hari. The unstoppable hands of destiny's clock do nothing but diminish their lifespan through useless thoughts, words, and deeds. Destiny's clock should be giving you progress. But if you're averse to Bhagavan Hari, then the progress of destiny's clock is doing nothing but wasting your time. Hari is the source of all good fortune, so discussing him is the most essential thing in life. Maitreya, your name means that you are the son of the god of friendship, Mitra, Anuradha's nakshatra devata, right? So you must know about this. Hi, Shanti. Bardo doesn't understand the pressure to compose something that would teach regular people. I don't know, Bardo. I guess you don't. I guess you're not a very creative person or something. Anybody who's creative would know, or who has something to teach would know that you want to give to people. If you don't think about, what kind of question is that? It's like if you're saying, I don't understand the pressure to cook food that somebody wants to eat. It's like saying, I don't understand the pressure to brush my teeth. Why should people care if my teeth are yellow? Of course, you want to cook food that people are going to eat. Of course, when you have information to share, you want to figure out how to share it in a way that it can be shared with people. I don't get the question. So Maitreya, Vidura says to Maitreya, your name means that you're the son of the god of friendship. So be a true friend to the distressed. Extract the essential honey from the flower of Vyasa's Bharata. Your friend, Vyas, my dad, expressed the Bharata, but it's clogged up with other stuff just to attract people. Extract the essence from it and bless us by giving us the essence of that. So now he's going to give some more questions. How does he manage to so perfectly manifest and maintain everything that exists? What are the avatar he accepts and empowers for these tasks? What superhuman deeds do they perform? Please sing of all these things to me. He's asking one after the other about the main 10 topics in the Purana. Okay, so that's the end of Vidura's questions. Now Maitreya is going to reply. Maitreya, the blessed and sagacious son of Kusharava, that's his mother, replied with great respect and appreciation. Mitra is the father. Knowing that Vidura asked these questions not only for his own sake, but for the ultimate well-being of everyone. So Maitreya says, Sadhu! Excellent, great. Your questions are excellent and will make the world excellent. You broadcast, so Maitreya is like, bam. Those are the best questions I've ever heard. Why? They're gonna, because whoever listens to these questions and answers is gonna really be lucky. You broadcast kirtan throughout the world because your identity is completely absorbed in the identity of the transcendent one. Kirtan is a natural breathing for somebody who's absorbed in a celebrity. Somebody who's absorbed in a celebrity will just breathe and exude celebration for that being. Somebody who's absorbed in Bhagavan will just exude kirtan of Bhagavan, Krishna kirtan. So Maitreya is praising Vidura, saying, you are instigating this kirtan by asking these questions because you are fixed on Bhagavan. I'm not surprised that you have asked all these questions because you're the son of Vidura and Vyas. And both of you exclusively embrace the mood of devotion to Hari. You are Yama, the god who controls all living beings. Born from Vyas through his brother's maidservant due to the curse of the powerful sage Mandavya. Mandavya. Now I remember the reason for Vyas getting cursed. Yes, Anil. Yes. Now I remember why Yama was cursed. Pretty sure this is it. Mandavya. Yama is the guy who has to enforce karma when it becomes confusing. So he's like a judge or a lawyer. He's like a judge. So there's one case where the sage Mandavya, some of Yama's servants thought that he was culpable for some bad activity. So they brought him before Yama when he died. And the bad activity was that he had killed insects intentionally. And he was, at the time, his defense was, at the time, I was like 6 or 7 years old. But for whatever reason, Yama's ruling on the case was, I don't care that you were 6 or 7 years old, you killed these innocent creatures. So that's a bit of karma that you're going to have to deal with. Mandavya thought that was so ridiculous to punish somebody for something that they're not even really fully aware that they're doing, that he cursed Yama. You're so insensitive to what it's actually like to be a human being and to grow up and be ignorant and to be frail and prone to flaws. You're so ignorant of what that feels like. You need to become a human being. So he made the god Yama become a human being, and that's why he was born as Vidura. So he was born from Vyas with a maid of the royal maid of the palace. So he's actually Yama. It is well known that you are an eternal devotee of the all-attractive. You're Yama. You're totally devoted to Vishnu. Just before he left, the all-attractive ordered me to communicate special knowledge to you. Remember, Uddhava had told Vidura, did you know that Krishna thought of you before he died and mentioned you? This is where now we find out what happened. Before Krishna departed, he turned to Maitreya and he said, there's a guy who's really important to me. His name is Vidura. And all the stuff I just explained to Uddhava, I need you to explain to Vidura. And that's probably the main reason why Uddhava said, go find Maitreya. Just before he left, the all-attractive ordered me to communicate special knowledge to you. Therefore, I will explain his divine pastimes. I will also systematically answer your questions about how and why the universe is created, maintained, and destroyed. Great. What's our time? 30 minutes. Got any questions about any of this? The next stuff that's going to come up, next section, you're going to kind of have an opportunity for a review. But this will be, don't get lazy and think this stuff is going to constantly come up again in the Bhagavatam. This is going to be, to my knowledge, the last time. Kapila might revisit it again. But in the part 3, this part 3 is the last time that we're going to really deal with this topic of how the universe emanates and how the constituent parts of it evolve, and then how those atomic or subatomic parts combine into the structures that we actually utilize in the universe as we know it. This topic we've already discussed, I think, twice before. And then now this is going to be the third time, maybe one other time. It's going to be it's going to be almost exactly the same presentation that you're already familiar with, which is fine because the knowledge is really dense and new to us. So it's good to hear it again. This is going to be some slightly different terminology for some of the categorizations of things. If you're late, you could just watch it as a recording. And Samantha, if you want, you can, yeah. You know how all the recordings are in the playlist. So that's going to come next. Oh, but there's really good stuff at the beginning of that, which is not present in what you've heard before. In fact, it's going to kick it off. It's going to really, Maitreya's explanation is going to really reveal the key point that may have been a question that you're having is like, all right, fine, all this evolution and stuff, but what's actually the first thing? Like, how does spirit, consciousness, get interested in matter or external things? How does consciousness get interested in things which are extrinsic or external to Bhagavan? How? Why? Maitreya is going to start off the description of where the universe comes from by explaining that. So that's really something to not miss. It'll be on Monday unless some unforeseen events happen. All right, guys? As usual, I thank you deeply for your company on the bottom as we go through the Bhagavatam. Haribol. I don't understand why Vishnu would manifest us. Wow, you just snuck in this question. Even if he knew that we'd be imperfect and that would cause us pain, even if we desired that out of ignorance. Why do you think you're imperfect? Yeah, you're experiencing suffering, but maybe that's not imperfection. And if you don't understand why Vishnu would manifest you, it's very simple. Yeah, maybe Maitreya is even going to explain this, but just to give you a real quick answer, what is the foundation of reality? The foundation of reality is the experiencer of reality. Reality is the thing which you can experience, so the foundation of it is the experiencer of reality. The experiencer of reality can't be an experiencer of reality unless he can produce something to experience. So he produces things. What more interesting thing is there to experience than another entity like yourself who's got freedom to amaze you by their own decisions? So he creates conscious entities. Not creates, but he eternally is manifest as an experiencer of other experiencers. And those experiencers can do whatever they like. That's not an imperfection, including not want to be experienced by him or not give a damn about him. And it's not pain. It's actually pleasure. What, you don't like ice cream? You don't like sex? You don't like a good hot meal? You don't like the comfort of your daughter's smile? There's plenty of pleasure. He provides all the pleasure that you want. The only discomfort is when you decide that you want to change your station. All right. Yeah. Thanks. All right, guys. I'm going to go. Oh, I'm going to try to work on I wasn't able to work on my Zodiac video yesterday, but hopefully I can do it today. It might be a little long and have to wait a bit more. Thanks, everybody.